That scream means we are in the depths of the Agony booth, but there's a twist this week, and we'll get into that later. But even more exciting is we have a very special guest this week, and I'm going to top it off with the very prince of Trek himself, Seán Ferrick. Dude, thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome aboard, Seán.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me here. Also, that intro is brilliant. Like
Thank you.
It's a good day when Remig's head explodes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Seán. We appreciate that. We appreciate that. The guy next to me has been the mastermind behind everything. He's the Krang to our Android. So
way too much time on my hands.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm also joined by my buddies Jason Squared, Jason Roy Gaston, and VHS Jace, our Spectrum Overlord and the Master of Cats.
Absolutely.
Yes. So he's got Murder Bean is the newest edition, and we found out some interesting news.
Oh, no. Murder Bean is not the newest edition.
Oh.
No, the newest edition is Whoopi Doombooger.
All right, just to clear this up for Seán, Jason's our crazy cat lady. He owns like all the cats.
I have 6 cats.
Because he's a good human being.
Yes.
I'm rehabilitating them for release into the wild.
Aww.
Yes.
Yeah, see? He's a good
man. You make the rest of us look bad. I feel like a bad human being compared to
I show
Jace.
up, that just happens. I know. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I'm rehabilitating myself for release into the wild, if that counts. I think after this weekend gone, after that con, I'm like, right, I'm going to need some rehab after that.
Yeah.
Definitely. Shall we jump into the synopsis?
Absolutely. Good luck with this one, Captain.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Star Trek Enterprise, Congenitor. Enterprise encounters a hypergiant star. While there, they make first contact with the Vissians, a technologically sophisticated race with 3 genders. While making quick friends and eagerly learning about the advanced technology, Trip gets curious about the Vissians' 3rd gender, known as the Congenitor. Who is crucial in the Vissian reproductive process. Against the wishes of the Vissians, Trip befriends the Congenitor and encourages it to defy its cultural boundaries, which the Vissians are made aware of and are angered by.
You're going to make me pay for this, aren't you, Joe? Sorry, I was just laughing so hard. That's my fault. But, it's good vocal exercises.
Yeah. They're going to get better at that. All right, so let's hop into it. WTF?
Because that's how we feel after we've watched the episodes. Like,
Usually. But this one was a good one.
The noise just makes it.
Yeah.
We have this running gag where that was just 2 millimeters away from being a TVMA.
Yeah. I mean, because he was older then. Gravity.
Well, I think that if they had filmed that same scene today, definitely TVMA. Yeah. They'd be like Tarzan down there.
They would have had to give him a scant instead of the long shirt. All right, so we're going to start off with Jason Roy Gaston.
What TF did we just watch? We watched a masterpiece. It was an absolute masterpiece. One of my primary gripes about Enterprise is that it never really took on its own premise, and it just wanted to be another Voyager or another Next Generation, and it never embraced the whole, we're the first ones out here, and we're figuring it out. And this episode did that. It was a new civilization, a strange new world, and a mistake. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, and I love episodes like this because no one is right, no one is wrong, and as T'Pol wisely says at one point, we can't judge another culture by our own standards, because who the heck are we to do that?
Yes. Seán.
It is easily one of the best episodes of the first 2 years of Enterprise. And Jason, completely agree. This is one where it was just like, you can tell that maybe in the series Bible for what Enterprise was to be, that this would have been one of the episodes you would pitch that idea with, of we go out there and with the best of intentions, we ruin something. like they've done comedy episodes like that before. There's one in Enterprise where Reed leaves his communicator on a planet, and there's a bit of a hijinks to get it back. And we've done things like this. Here you have a civilization who's actually more advanced technologically than humanity at this point, and we in our blindness and in our sort of arrogance, we managed to create something devastating, because we have I suppose spoilers, someone dies and a child is now not going to be conceived, because this is how the Congenitor works in Vissian society, and then yet it still makes you go, was Trip right or wrong? Oh God, what would I have done? Archer has probably one of the best lines of the episode, which is basically, how can you say I did what you have done, or you would have done, if I don't know what I would have done? And I thought, oh, that was good.
Yeah. VHS Jace. Well said, Sean.
Look, it's hard to add to what these two guys have already said, but the main thing that, from a storytelling perspective, to me, what make the great stories are the ones that stick with you after. And this one stuck with me because it is such a moral dilemma where, you could drive yourself nuts trying to figure a way out of this problem, and there is none. You absolutely sympathise with both sides of the fence here. And it's gripping because of that. I think for me, this is one of the strongest episodes of Enterprise period for me, because it is a bold story and it's done well. And, Trip, as a character, walks away more of a flawed character from that episode, which... I'm calling him Charles now because I'm rather upset with him a little bit. So I'll call him Charles. Like how your mum called you your name,
You have to call him his full name now. Charles Trip Tucker the Third.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. But yeah, wow. Well, what a delight. And maybe that's also for the fact that we have just watched some pretty bad episodes in the last few weeks that just like I've been given this rush of goodness. But no, I was so impressed about it. I mean, I actually watched it twice in the same day because I'd only seen it once before, 20 odd years ago. So no, fantastic.
Yeah, I agree with everyone, of course. Some of the things that stood out to me were some of the light humor that Malcolm was experiencing with the Vissian. When she was approaching him, I'd like to go to bed with you. And he's like, whoa, hold on.
I love
a little bit slapsticky.
Yeah,
I love that scene because he literally bangs his head on nothing.
Yes.
They just throw the sound.
They moved past that pole, haven't they?
Yeah.
I don't know if they were supposed to CGI something in later, and they're like, it's fine.
I love the design of the aliens, the Vissians. I think that it showcases their exterior cranium, where they have more of a rounder against their eyes, the rounder piece.
Yeah.
So perfect example. Thank you. Because it kind of shows how capable they are in learning it so quickly. So it kind of explains it with the development of the cortical lobe. I'm not a scientist, but I thought it was. Can you believe that?
Never guessed.
But I really appreciated that, and I also appreciated the intro, the when they first encountered the Vissians, the way the ship design was for the Vissian ship, the star that was going to nova at some point, and the reminder that Vulcans live a very long time. There were just so many hitting of the right marks in this episode that I really, really appreciated it a lot. And going back watching it, because it had been about maybe 20 years for me as well, and when I first got into Enterprise, it had already been off air because when there was an issue here and we didn't get UPN. So I saw the first half of the first season of Enterprise and then nothing. So very expensive DVDs, which I still have. You can see it up here. I still have it. My fingers here. I'm not really good.
Now worth 50 cents at the flea market.
Pretty much,
that's what sucks.
Actually,
no, that's not true. Those prices are coming back around now, aren't they?
Yeah, because there's no more.
Because we're getting into antique time period now.
Yeah.
Oh no.
That and the loss of because we're getting so heavy into digital media, and it's not everywhere at once like it should be.
No.
So it's amazing. But yeah, and then the heavy ending of this and some of the cinematography in this was just incredible for a television show, and even Star Trek. I just thought some of the things that they did with the out of focus Trip, into focus Archer, and vice versa, just fantastic.
That's LeVar Burton for you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. LeVar Burton is incredible in everything he does. Even guest starring. It's like, oh, great, a LeVar episode.
Well, no episode that references Shakespeare this much is going to end with a laugh.
That's a good point. That is a very good point. Very good, very good. All right, so let's move on into our next segment.
Redeeming feature.
It looks like gold. Tastes like gold.
It is gold.
The Frankies say so. It is. It's gold.
It's gold. Yes. This, to me, was definitely a gold episode. But I am not the one to start. Let's go with Jason Roy Gaston, Master of Cats.
Okay. I have a list.
Yes.
Redeeming features is pretty much the entire episode without the titles. Okay. No, here we go. I'm gonna hit my high points just so I save stuff for everybody else. Andreas Katsoulis, as Sean would say, up.
Yeah.
Yes.
I liked that Tucker showed both his growth and his regression in this episode. Because if you remember the first episode, Broken Bow, whenever they go through that alien bar, Tucker sees what looks like an alien woman torturing her child, and he's like yelling at her, and T'Pol's like, no, she's helping him breathe, you need to back off. Well, this one, he comes across a similar situation, but instead of immediately jumping in, well, that's wrong, you shouldn't do that, he stops himself and he tries to learn before he does anything. And I say he has some regression because his instincts take over again, and he starts to impose his own values on an alien race. So I thought that was a very interesting character development there, that it showed growth and then it showed regression in the same episode. I like the Reed romance. I liked it. It was sweet. It was nice. Did not feel like padding. And I like that I can't remember her name, but I like that the alien armory officer got Reed's innuendo and just went with it. Because normally on some other show, they would just say, oh, okay. But no, she's like, okay.
Yeah.
I like that these were hip aliens. Oh, let's see. What else? I already talked about how Reed bangs his head on absolutely nothing. I don't know if you guys paused Tripp's library of movies. There were some very interesting movies in there. Dixon Hill and the Black Orchid, The Bride of Chaotica, It Came from Beneath the Refrigerator, and then Tripp chooses the only actual movie in his library, The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Oh.
Which is science fiction really what you want to start somebody off on who's never seen a movie before?
Probably not.
I don't know. It's one of many questionable decisions that he has here.
Yeah.
Archer's dressing down of Tripp before and after the Congenitor takes her own life, both of them are written masterfully. Every time Tucker comes up with an excuse, Archer shoots it down. And this is one of those times I've never really thought that Archer was that strong of a commander, of a starship commander, but here, this was Captain Archer. He was in charge and he was taking no crap from anybody. I really like that. I like that it was an amicable meeting between two races. It was nice to have somebody not shooting at them. I like that this was an episode of consequences, hard lessons learned. And again, this is one of the few episodes where Enterprise actually delivers on its premise that we're going to go and explore the frontier and we're going to mess it up. I really enjoyed this episode. I say that this is probably, unless I can think of another one, this is probably the strongest episode of Enterprise I've seen.
Wow. Sean.
Ooh.
So much of that I just totally agree with. And there, like, some of the best bits are exactly like you said, Archer and Tripp, because not only is Scott Bakula like smashing it in this episode, but it's always been, for the full 2 seasons, it's been Archer and Tripp, Archer and Tripp, Archer and Tripp. They're not just captain and chief engineer. Of course, they're buddies. They go back so long. And I think that Archer really, really delivers on that as well in the very last speech, because he blames himself. And I know we have done things in the past where, you know, captains blame themselves for the actions of the crew, but it's more than that. This is someone with whom he has a relationship outside of Enterprise with, and this is someone like Trip has let him down, you know, and it's big deal. Someone's dead. You know, there's no like, oh, Trip, I wish you hadn't done that. It's Trip, do you understand what you've done and the position you've put Starfleet in? Because that's it as well. Like, you know, this could be the end of any future potential relationship with this alien race. And if there was one thing, now this is Star Trek as a whole, so this is not just about this. The one thing is that by the next week it's forgotten.
Yeah,
That's just a Star Trek trope, unfortunately. You know, when you have episodic Star Trek, which we did for the longest time, and we would get going into season 3 of Enterprise. Whereas now, granted, the next episode is also amazing. I love Regeneration; it's an amazing episode. But that's not what we're talking about here. I thought as well, the way that, you know, you see the story unfolding is that the two people to whom Trip sort of asks advice for are both alien characters. You've Phlox and you've T'Pol. And they are both like, oh, okay, third gender. Yeah, this is hardly a shock. You know, we've experienced races or alien species that have this. And, you know, here you have these. The fun of Star Trek is you throw a load of prosthetics on someone, you call them, a Vulcan, you call them a Denobulan, and basically what they're doing is that just keep an open mind. You know, humanity is not the be-all and the end-all. At one point, Trip says, you know, well, what about her human rights? And they go, she's not human.
Human. Yeah, that was a great line.
And it's really, that reminds me just now, I'm thinking of that line in Star Trek 6 where the Klingons come to dinner and Chekhov makes a thing about, you know, we believe everyone has human rights. And, you know, because, and Ezekor goes, the very name is racist. And it's funny, you don't think about it until you're in this situation where it's just like, oh, and especially as well, Jason, Andreas Katsoulis. So sadly, this is his last appearance in Star Trek before his death, but he is so affable. He is so understanding. And in fact, the only time he's described as upset is off screen.
Yeah.
You know? And you don't get the feeling as well. Or at least I don't get the feeling that at any point they're angry at, you know, like, or that, you know, they're like, oh, maybe the humans might actually have an idea here. You get this just this immense calm from him going, you'll come around. You'll see, you'll understand. And of course, Archer does, because he doesn't grant asylum. Trip doesn't. So even though I think Trip sort of gets it by the end. Not that, just the fact that interfering, jumping in both feet first, was the wrong thing to do here. You know, there's so many other ways he could have handled what, you know, the situation as he saw it. And it's heartbreaking that he screwed it all up by, you know, trying to be the hero. And that's what it was, because this, I definitely got the feeling for the whole episode, this was less about the Congenitor and way more about Trip. Thinking who knew better.
100%.
Yeah. Well said. VHS Jace?
Look, it's hard to add any more to what these two guys.
Yeah, I know. I kind of
said,
feel
but
like
I will say I think the frustration with Archer with Trip though was also, I mean, this is basic 101 stuff, right? It's all around the Prime Directive. You don't go in and mess with another society, and he did that. So I think there's a lot of disappointment. I mean, that's the driving emotion I get from Archer. It's just complete and utter disappointment in him. And deservedly so, because at the end of the day, Trip was being selfish. And it's, you know, we can paint it all these different ways. His intentions were good and all that, but that's the reality of it. But yes, another thing that I did love the relationship between Archer and the Vissian. What was his name? Apologies. What was his name?
Andreas Katsoulis, that's his name. I don't
Yeah.
know the character's name, but yeah.
No, that's what I was after. That's all good. But
Captain
Andre.
Tomalak, Jakar, just
Oh, yeah.
great
Either way,
acting.
that relationship is very sweet and not something you always see in Star Trek because it is counter the instinct of having conflict. It is like these two guys get along, which I thought was wonderful, and the tone of that relationship was really sweet. Some of the other things I really love, just minor things here, guys, is the ship, how they're flying a Buck Rogers from 1930s spaceship by the looks of it. Which is pretty cool. I always love a ship with knobs and levers. It's very rare to see that. I did love that. And the other thing is you mentioned about a movie, them watching a movie. And I don't get it because the version I saw, it wasn't that movie. It was this, which I thought was a good choice. Honestly,
Yeah.
One
of the best.
So I don't know what you were talking about. But besides that, look, it's hard to add any more. I'm just repeating myself at this point. I think we all would agree this is an effing great episode. And all I'll say is I walked out of that with thinking, now that's a captain.
Yeah.
Because he had to do the thing he doesn't want to do because that's not Archer's nature. Nature's mere affable, let's get along. And he had to be a captain. Yeah. Bravo. That's it.
Well done. Well said. Well said. One of the things you were going on about the ship and how it had the knobs. Did anyone else feel like Spock's ship from the Star Trek remake?
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
They had some very similar, design maybe.
I think it's hard because really everybody, from a design perspective, you end up going to go back to those things that are almost 100 years old now. Your Flash Gordons, your Buck
Well,
Rogers.
I mean, if you really think about it, it's basically a bathysphere. It's a bathysphere that goes into the star. So I really like that it was cramped and they did have the knobs and they were looking out the little windows and everything.
Yeah.
And Archer's Surfer Bro moment
from behind him.
I love Archer's Surfer Bro moment when it goes, nah, dude, we go into the wave. Yeah, and I thought, that's awesome. That was radical.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things that I enjoyed was the pseudoscience of actually being able to coast a star that was having its starburst, so to speak, or ready to collapse. I thought that was incredible. And just the graphics look insanely amazing, too. I thought it was
20 years ago,
Yeah, but 20 years ago, I was like, this is great now. This is fantastic. And I just think that they went above and beyond and everything.
They don't overuse it. They use it enough.
No, it was small.
I think.
Yeah.
I must say, the beginning of that episode, they captured something that we've seen hundreds of times in Star Trek, but they really got the sense of awe about it, of them coming up to that. What was it again? What was the name of it?
It was a star.
I'm old, by the way, so I forget everything.
Okay. It was a star. I mean, we could bring up the synopsis again. I could read it.
Let's not.
No, let's not. Let's not do that again. That's good. Either way, I felt that scene had a real sense of awe to it, and it's not something you really get out of Star Trek anymore. And it was a nice little reminder that everything's new and fresh for them.
Yeah,
and you would imagine this story is going in the annals of somewhere as a lesson for Starfleet students one day of not what to do when coming across a new culture.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the mind your business section of stuff.
Yeah.
And why is he should be court-martialed, right, for this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, did he break laws, though? Because were there laws in the book about this?
Yeah,
I think the Prime Directive hadn't yet come into law. If it had, absolutely he would be court-martialed. And again, rightly so in the context of this.
Yeah, it's such a heavy ending.
But if you really think about it, Trip was not the only one who was breaking the Prime Directive. I know it didn't exist yet, but the Visians were also interfering in Earth culture because they were like, oh, you like this technology? Here you go. You don't have to develop that. We're going to give it to you, which you're like, yeah, that's awesome. Thanks a lot. But, both sides were kind of...
That's a really good point because they're so open with their tech. They're like, oh, yeah, we'll give you that. Oh, we can adapt this, no problem. Yeah. And I was having a look on Memory Alpha just before we came on here. And something like 2 or 3 episodes later in The Expanse, Enterprise gets photonic torpedoes, which You know, now they could have been working on it already because the Klingons had it before this, but still, it's just like, so maybe this is a glass half full. They didn't end diplomatic relations.
Yeah.
Maybe they just said, yeah, listen, we'll just make sure that Trip doesn't make it out alive, and we'll all be friends again.
Well, good news. He doesn't.
Was I the only one in the episode that almost smelt the pungent of that food? I don't know what is going on in my brain. I thought I might be having a stroke at the time. But the way they described how, the look on Trip's face, I think, when he goes to eat, I'm like, oh, yeah, that must really stink. But yeah, I'd eat it too. So what can I say?
Hey, I'll try anything once, So let us, we're cutting the commercial.
Yeah, we'll cut to a commercial. Sounds good.
Have a little break.
Thank you to our sponsor, I suppose.
You will regret defying me!
For 30 years, you've sat and watched.
Red alert.
Now, it's your turn to enter the 24th century.
Evacuate to Shuttle Bay. Evacuate to Shuttle Bay.
Star Trek The Experience at the Las Vegas Hilton. This time, it's real. For ticket information, call 1-888-GO-BOLDLY.
R.I.P.
Wow, that's still open, right?
I called that number, and all I got was some very angry person who didn't speak English, and I don't know what's going on. Apparently, he's been getting lots of them.
That hurts me right where my heart is supposed to be because I never got to go.
Yes.
I went twice.
Here. You went twice?
I went twice.
Oh, do you have pictures?
I do. My ex is in all of them though.
Oh,
I do have a
burn hole through it.
No, I've got a bunch of pictures inside of Quarks and things. I've got a picture of me sitting in the captain's chair because I sprang for the behind the scenes tour whenever it was shutting down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I missed that place. It was great. Just walking the promenade of Deep Space Nine, buying things, and
wow.
Yeah, the Captain Janeway ribeye was, you just couldn't beat that. It was great.
Did it come with a cup of coffee?
It should have. I think it was marinated.
Missed opportunity. Yeah.
Missed opportunity.
That's why they closed down, Joe. Decisions like that.
Yeah.
Put in the shape of a salamander.
Yeah. That's perfect. That's perfect. Oh my god.
All right, it's time. Can we do this? This is my favorite bit.
Yes, please. The
Let's
Wheel
do the
of
Wheel of-
Agony. Oh, I absolutely love that.
Here we are.
So
As you can
dramatic.
see, Sean, everything's overproduced for no real reason.
Brilliant. That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
I love that Sub Rosa is the deepest color of red.
Yes, because that's how much I despise. Now, just to explain to Sean how this works, we have a slew of red, which are what we consider bad episodes. But in the blue, because we've been going for so much torture, we decided to add some drops of ecstasy. Not the drug, but just the feeling. So we have in the good ones, we have The Best of Both Worlds Part 1, In the Pale Moonlight, Such Sweet Sorrow. They're 3 episodes we've put as good, and then the rest are just trash. So so we're giving ourselves, I would say, 25% chance, maybe a 20% chance today of landing on something good for next week. All right, guys, any questions before we spin the wheel?
I'm good.
You're
Sean?
good. All
Yeah,
right.
why is Coda in red?
Oh, here we go. Coda is in red. You know, that's what we're finding too. There's a group of us that comes up to this, and every now and again, a la this episode we just watched, because one of our co-hosts actually doesn't like the episode at all.
Right.
So we get that. So Coda, you're in defense of Coda, you're saying, Sean?
I am indeed. Yeah, I think there's some pretty chilling moments in that.
Oh, wow.
Well, when we spin on it one day, hopefully we can convince you again to
Stay up late and hang out with us.
to defend your honor on Coda.
There you
All
go.
right, let's do it.
Thank you.
Here we go.
Oh, the sound.
On Coda.
Here we go. Oh, look. Oh,
The
so
music.
close yet so far.
Oh,
Okay,
man.
so good news. I mean, bad news. It's the
Bad
news. Good
news.
news. It's Meg Foster.
Oh,
Yes, I
that's
do love
right.
Meg
Yeah.
Foster.
Mhm.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good point.
Oh well, that's it. Another episode has been chosen. We remove that slice from the wheel. We don't have that many left now. But
Yeah.
there you go. That's the Wheel of Agony. We're doing the Muse next week.
We're doing. He's like, excuse, time for a second, and then,
It's almost like you threw up in your mouth
Oh,
before
there it
you
goes.
said that.
Stellar.
Any advice for us next week, Sean, in watching this? You got any advice how we can get through the Muse?
Yes, actually, because do you know what? What I will say in defense of the Muse ahead of time is that the scenes between Renee and Majel are, I mean, they're just lovely. I mean, look, the whole Jake subplot, unfortunately, just kind of falls a bit flat. But as you say, Meg Foster's brilliant. But everything with Loaxana and Odo, I am just like, yeah. Also, I might be
Loaxana was
misremembering
in
this, but is Michael and Sarah in this one?
It's been a while.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Co-host? No one? No one here.
Usually Jason.
We're certainly not going to be the resource for this.
I think I saw
Look
this
it up, look it
episode
up.
once whenever it
Oh,
first
wow.
aired, and that's it. And that's been like 30 years. So I
No,
don't
I've
know.
seen it a couple of times. I just
I
can't
saw
quite
it
remember
recently.
that
Not
bit.
too
Yeah.
recently. Yeah, because I did a whole rewatch. I love the sign. It's my favorite,
No.
and I constantly watch it. So
Is
I
this
know
one
I-
of those
Yeah.
trauma things where it's that bad you just block out elements of the trauma?
That was
So-
storytellers for me.
Oh, that one. I
Why
did a
isn't that
rewatch
one
of
on
that
there?
one recently.
Yeah, that one was
That's-
terrible. Yeah, that was.
Well, we'll have to
Dumb.
add a fresh bunch for next season, so
Yeah.
we'll be able to get all them on. So
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, we'll get them on there.
Absolutely.
All right, so it's the aftermath.
Oh, yes, we're going to go into the aftermath.
Now, why don't you go back to your quarters? I'll be along shortly to say hello.
I keep saying it every
I'm
week.
sorry,
I watch
what?
that and get more and more attracted to it. I need
It
to be
is-
asking questions of myself.
It is seriously erotic and terrifying at the same
Right.
time, which is
Right? I'm not alone
that is
here.
how I like it.
Erotifying?
What'd you say, Sean?
Erotifying?
Erotifying. Yeah,
There it is. Perfect.
perfect.
All right. So, any final thoughts on this episode or the next episode?
I
think Jason has some.
Yes.
the notes came up. No, I checked. I went to Memory Alpha because I was curious to see if the Visians ever showed up again, and they have not, unfortunately.
Oh.
But it does say that in a novel, Archer does convince the Visians to join the Alliance and help fight the Romulans during the Romulan War. So
Oh, that's cool.
apparently the alliance with the Visians were not completely destroyed in this one. So I think it was along the line of, okay, but Trip better not get in our ship. Well, he's dead. Okay, we're coming.
Because they're such nice people.
Yeah.
You would feel like Lower Decks. There's material to mine there,
Oh my
you know?
gosh. Lower
Yeah.
Decks.
Because you
should
know
be-
that crew's going to exploit those people as so
Right.
quickly.
Right.
Yes.
I'd say, like, if they do show up in Lower Decks, which I would love, you know what they do now is that at this stage, the Congenitors run the entire society, and
Yeah.
you know, it's gone completely the other way around.
Right.
Yeah, I guess it was just it's a great episode it's a slice of life episode, you know, and the fact that we haven't revisited and that we haven't done them again, it's good because you kind of have to address the idea of, well, what's the story? Like, are they subjugating part of their society? Should they be? Should we be doing something to get involved? I think you couldn't avoid that if you bring them back again. Whereas the way they've done it, I mean, if to do it in a serious way, like in Lower Decks, you can have all of the fun with that. You know, you can play with it. I just think, yeah, so powerful. I did think it was a bit cruel that, okay, Trip didn't really have any consequences by the end of it. So instead, they just killed his sister when the Zindi attacked Expanse.
Right.
I think that's a bit full on, isn't it? You know?
They
Life
put a
for
pin in
life.
that for a little bit, though, didn't they? No, we're not going to forget about that. We're getting
You didn't think we'd just forgotten, did you?
exactly. Played
If
the
you
long
rearrange some words in Zindi, it spells Visian.
Yeah. There it is.
Let Trip know it was me.
Yeah. Oh,
Drip's dead. Oh.
Before we wrap it up, I want to be a bit exploitive here because Sean's here, and I'd love to hear his thoughts. And I'm sure he's done it online anyway. But Strange New World season 2 trailer, that one that just came up the other day. Like, what do you think? I just love the art style and the tone of this show. It seems to be a lot of light against some of the dark stuff I think we got coming down the pipeline.
Absolutely. It's something I'm really looking forward to because I loved season 1. You know, I just thought it was, you know, it was fun. I've made the point a few times that I just thought, like, you know, we get it, Pike's going in the chair. Can we get? But even that, as long as they don't do that again in season 2, we get it, Pike. But I don't think they will. I think they've covered that now.
Yeah.
And I just love the fact that, like, you know, oh my God, Una's been arrested. She's in literally every trailer. I'm not massively worried about the outcome of her trial.
Yeah, I know this trial's going to go well for her.
I hope they lower deck it where it all happens off screen and, like, I don't know, Uhura and Navi are out there trying to save her, and they get back to the ship and she's waiting there. Where have you two been? Oh yeah, the trial happened already.
Just
I
don't
was
mention
fine.
it.
Yeah.
That would I would love.
I will say though, in the
Himmer
trailer-
walks in. Has anyone heard about the Black Mountain?
Oh, please. And when you're thinking about this new engineer, right? Is anyone else getting like this is Spinal Tap drummer vibes with the engineers on this show? Like that, because that's what I'm getting. Hey, she's not on the main poster, and she wasn't in a lot. So, and I love that actress Carol Kane. She's amazing.
Great. Yeah.
So.
I'm kind of looking forward to the running gag of the revolving door of engineers. You know, oh my God, they killed Priya! You bastards!
Yes, exactly.
I just think that would be a fun.
And the crossover moment. I think everybody like lost it over that.
Cannot wait.
Yeah.
Can I nitpick a little bit? Purple eyebrows, bit much. Just saying.
No, doesn't he have purple eyebrows in the cartoon?
But I think a bit thick. All I'm saying.
Good Lord.
Just thin them down a little bit.
Jack Quaid has
clearly
beautiful
on
eyebrows.
the example of maintenance of.
Clearly. The two of us at the top. You know what's funny? It's the two of us at the top, and then the guys that are in good.
Yeah,
there it is.
Of course, we stand on the shoulders of greatness, Joe.
Yeah,
that's what we're doing.
It is. Yeah.
Somebody's got to be on the show as eye candy. And
unfortunately for Jason, I had some tacos earlier, so you can deal with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I got nothing more to add. Let's get out of here so we can go live a life.
Thank you so much. Tell people where some of the exciting things you're doing, and of course, some of the exciting interviews you're having. Let's hear it all.
Oh yeah, amazing stuff.
We are super happy to say that this week on Clone Store, Jin Meili is our guest. They played Esmar in season 3 of Picard.
Yeah.
Joseph, who's my co-host along with Mike, is making the joke that I'm just basically working my way through all of the Picard crew, and I'm kind of getting there. Jerry Ryan, I'm coming for you.
Oh yes, absolutely.
We have a couple more coming up. Fun one, which we released in a couple of weeks, is for RuPaul's Drag Race fans out there. Pandora Box is one of our guests.
That's awesome.
Brilliant. Just so brilliant.
Me and the wife watch all of them, like the UK version, the Australian version, the American version.
Yeah, I saw it filmed in Bryant Park. And I saw RuPaul, and I was like, "Oh, that's a really tall." Oh my God, it's RuPaul! My friend's like, "Really? Where?" You know. So that was a fun moment.
We always have that moment looking at each other, we're going like, "We're invested at this point in this series, aren't we?"
Yeah.
Just like, yep, that's what we do now.
Yep.
I got so transfixed by the cat. I'm so happy.
Yeah, I know. Just this random cat.
Random cat. Well, go ahead, Shauna. What else is going on?
We got loads of stuff coming up on Trek Culture. Obviously, June 15th, Strange New Worlds is back, so the ups and downs are starting again.
Yes.
So spare a thought for poor Chris, the editor, who will be entering the next 10 weeks of not sleeping.
I feel for him, mate. I know. That's what I do as well. No shit.
Yeah. What else as well? I think that's the big stuff for the moment, because we don't have a date yet on when Lower Decks is back. I'm just sort of assuming Lower Decks is going to start either right after Strange New Worlds, or hopefully not the same weeks. It's really quite difficult when they do that.
No, I don't think they're going to do the same. They're not going to lay it. I think it'll be August that Lower Decks comes back.
Yeah, that's sort
I
of.
think it was around that time last year.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah,
And
so
then we
you get a
have
break. You get a break, Sean.
Not
Because
that I'm
you got
giving
Lower
out, I would
Decks, and
never
then you
give
got
out about
Prodigy.
so much Star Trek.
Yeah. This is a new golden era of Star Trek, and I'm here for it.
Well, that's what I mean. We got Prodigy straight after that, season 2 of that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Christmas time. Yeah.
So,
I cannot wait for that. I
Yes.
think a lot of people, for so many reasons, marketing being one of them. A lot of people kind of slept on the first half of season 1 of Prodigy. I know over here it was very straight. Like it was on Nickelodeon, but then Paramount Plus hadn't launched yet over here, and then they didn't know how to advertise it because it's technically a kids show, but then it's also and it was just like, oh my god. And so when the second half of the season came back, I think more people started to be like, oh, actually, this is good. It's like, we've been telling you this.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to, now that Paramount Plus is a bit more widespread in terms of its release, people being able to just watch Prodigy as it releases for season 2. Because definitely do, because it's so good.
So good.
It is. I think the Nickelodeon brand, it did. It's the sticker, because we all programmed to go, Nickelodeon, that's kids. But the moment you watch that series, you realise they don't dumb it down at all. This is as valid storytelling as any other version of Star Trek. I think you're right, though. Everyone's kind of caught up at the second half of that season 1 now.
Yeah. And everybody knows what happens to the E because of Prodigy. It wasn't his fault. It was not
Very
his
true.
fault. Yeah.
Damn kids.
I still like the idea that Riker might think it might be his fault. Even though we know it's not his fault, but that some of his peers have that slight little bit of doubt. I think that's a fun thing.
Do you hear yourself?
I love that.
Yeah,
We shall make it a threesome. Some of these these lines that shouldn't have worked, but just out of his mouth, the way he delivered those lines, spot on. Spot on.
Yeah. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Agony Booth. Sean, once again, thank you so much for staying up late and hanging out with us. This is our global episode. We've got UK, Ireland there, Australia, Texas, because that's its own thing, and we here in the United States. Oh, thanks you all for joining us. Please be sure to be nice to each other. Be nice to us. Like and share and subscribe. We are just one away from a nice round number, so we'd appreciate it if you would subscribe and share with your friends, because everybody loves to be in agony and ecstasy. And this is a great example of both. So until next time, live long and prosper, y'all. Check out SpectrumSanctorum.net for all of our podcast merch. We have an entire merch store ready to give you all the things that you loved about our podcast. And get notified on all of our socials: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and our Spectrum Sanctorum merch store. Follow us today and be sure to hit that bell when you're watching our YouTube videos so you can be notified of when a new episode